Welcome everybody to Lunch and Live. Lunch and Live. My name is Michelle Olivia Smith, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Whether you are on the Zoom with us or whether you are live in the Delightful Infusion group, we're just so happy that you have chosen to be here to just spend 30 minutes with us during your lunchtime. We appreciate you so much. We're excited about this new event, and we are only going to keep you 30 minutes. You know, I was so excited. I was getting ready for this event, and I happened to see this little boa, and I said, "Oh my goodness, that matches my outfit." And I was like, "Oh, Michelle, you can come out there in a boa." They're going to be like, "What is that all about?" But you know what? Life can be fun. Life is fun, right? Life is fun. It's all about your perspective and how you look at things. And when I put this on, I said, "Oh, you know, this is a delightful little accessory." And I don't normally wear this. I bought it actually for my daughter for a costume that she needed to wear to school. But I said, "Oh my goodness, it fit it matched my colors," so I threw it on. Things like that, little things like that will help you get joy out of life. And I believe that joy is strength. You know, there's so little joy in the world nowadays. We're all going through a lot of things, but I want to just give you a delightful infusion of inspiration and information, tools, and joy, so that you can enjoy the rest of your day. And so I'm going to get started. As you know, some of you may know or may not know, I am the CEO of Delightful Infusion, the key to positive change. And I offer keynote speaking, coaching, and information products through that business. And I'm just excited because my mission is to help women find their purpose, reach their goals, and walk in victory. And so we're going to start, this is the first one, having these lunch and lives. And I'm going to do this today, and I'm going to do it tomorrow, which is Thursday, tomorrow's the 24th of March. And we're going to also do this every Thursday thereafter. So it's going to be once a week at noon. And if you've registered for this, you have the Zoom link for tomorrow. All right. But after tomorrow, there will be a new Zoom link that will stay active for every Thursday thereafter. So we will send you by email that Zoom link. Also want to let you know, if you are here live with me on the Zoom, check your email, because I have sent you a lovely handout. You're actually looking at it on the screen. This is the first page of the handout for today's Lunch and Live. And so there's a lot of information in that packet, and later on you can take a look at the rest of it, but I want to call your attention to page 2, which is all about our topic today, which is Abigail. As you know, this is Women's History Month, and so I wanted to talk about women in the Bible. And I wanted to get 3 of them in before March went out. That's why we're having this today, tomorrow, and next Thursday. And the woman that we're going to talk about today, her name is Abigail. One of our coaching programs for women is named after Abigail. And so I want you to know all about her. There's so much to be learned from her. On page 3 of that packet, there is a page that you can take notes on, or you can write things in, but it's all about you. Page 3 of this packet is all about you, and you can go ahead and use that for self-reflection. As we begin to get into all about Abigail, I want you to start thinking about you, your life, even your tests and trials that you've been through, and how you've been able to come through those things, what your transition, if you are in a life transition is one of my big topics. I want you to think about that. And also I want you to think about transformation, change, positive change, because Delightful Infusion is about getting the keys to positive change. And so I want to encourage you that every day that we wake up, we have the potential for positive change, for positivity in our lives. And that's what we're all about at Delightful Infusion. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the presentation, and then we'll be able to have time for any questions and answers. Hopefully at the end, we'll have a little time for that, but we are definitely going to end on time, because I want you to come back, and I want you to come back every Thursday and get some inspiration and some information. Also, I want you to tell a friend. Do you have a mother, a sister, an aunt, a friend, a woman that needs just an injection, an infusion, a delightful infusion to encourage them and empower them through their day and through their week? Invite them to come to Lunch and Live with Michelle Smith. All right, ladies, I'm going to go ahead and get right into what I want to say today. We are going to be found, once we get to talking about Abigail, in 1 Samuel, the 25th chapter. And you know what? So many things we have are electronic, but you know what? I got my paper Bible with me today because I want to feel it. I want to read it from there. So we're going to do that, and we're going to get right into it. Well, one of the things I want to share with you, as you already know, women, we're wired to take care of others. We're social beings, and we're socialized to want to help and to want to please others. And in many ways, this is a really good thing. If we're married, God made us an effective help for our husbands. If we're mothers, to nurture and raise up children. If you aren't married and you don't have children, you're still called to help in so many ways. You may nurture nieces, nephews, cousins. You may mentor young people on the job. You might be that go-to person who's always helpful, who always knows how to handle things. In your neighborhood, you might be the one that's always looking out for others. In the church, you might be that willing worker. You might have the gift of helps, always cooking for the program, providing hospitality for the guest preachers and their families. You might be that usher at the church door. You might nurture the youth department, the music department, the women's department, the missionary board, your Sunday school class, your audiovisual department. And you may be one of those that pray for others. But whatever it is you do, you work hard. You work hard in the home, on the job, in the church, in the neighborhood, or in the community. And in all these interactions, we women want to be effective. And let's just face it, we want to be liked. We want to be accepted. However, as you grow in Christ, you understand more and more about God and his word. And it's inevitable that at times you may be led in ways others don't understand. It may be something different. Why is that? Why is that? Well, we see in Isaiah 55:8-9, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts your thoughts. So we find something interesting in that. Number one, God doesn't think like us. Number two, God doesn't act like us. So how does God think? How does God act? And what does God want from us as women? Well, the first thing we must do to find the answers to those questions is seek God in prayer and in the study of his word. And so this way we'll know what pleases God and how we should live for him. This way we can have a delightful life. And so the first step is allowing the word of God to define you. And this is what I believe. You know, I do career coaching. I do entrepreneur coaching. I do transformation coaching. I also do faith-based coaching, because what I really believe is that the key to positive change is found in the Bible. And so that's one of the reasons we are marking Women's History Month by talking about a woman in the Bible. Because if we can see ourselves in the Word of God, we can gain wisdom, uncommon wisdom, and confidence. We can gain a confidence in everything that we do, ladies. We can gain a confidence on the job, a confidence in our businesses, a confidence that the things that we set our hands to do, God is going to bless them. And so Psalm 119 tells us at the 10th verse, with my whole heart have I sought thee. Oh, let me not wander from thy commandments. Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. Blessed art thou, O Lord, teach me thy statutes. So by learning his statutes, we'll understand what his will and his purpose is for our lives. And so we're going to start this Lunch and Live off talking about Abigail, because she, as a woman in the Bible, is someone we can learn some things from, because we've been through some things in our lives. As we see these women in the Bible going through certain things, we can gain so much that will help us along the way, that will help us be victorious in our lives. Now, Abigail can be found in 1 Samuel chapter 25. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. And then we'll get into our question and answer. As I do that, though, I do want you to take a look at if you have not gotten your packet in the email, if you haven't pulled it up, I just want to call your attention to a little bit of it. And you've already been welcomed. So happy that you're here. So happy we're having lunch together. But there is a statement of welcome on that. And now here on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, we're going to spotlight Abigail. All right. And so who was Abigail? Abigail was the wife of a man named Nabal. And as we look at 1 Samuel 25:3, it says, now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife, Abigail. And she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. So one of the things that stands out in this verse is that Abigail was beautiful and she was smart. She was both of those things. She had wisdom and understanding. She had cunning. She had craftiness. And she was physically beautiful. And she had the brains, the beauty and the brains. So don't let nobody tell you you can't be beautiful and have brains, because you sure can. And so I wanted to, I'm going to start really off at the first verse, because I want to show you just a little something about the setting here as we get into it. If you go to 1 Samuel 25, the first verse, it says, and Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him and buried him in his house at Ramah. And David arose, King David, this is David, and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in Maon whose possessions were in Carmel. And I'm going to stop here and I'm going to bring up just a little graphic that I want you to see. And so this is a map of those Bible times. And as you can see, Maon was very close to Carmel. Cities very close to each other. You might even be able to say that one was a suburb of the other. But it says in verse 2, and there was a man in Maon whose possessions were in Carmel, and the man was very great. And he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. So he was very, very rich. And we've already read the third verse. The name of the man was Nabal, and his wife Abigail. She was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil. Now, the word churlish really denotes that he was not easy to get along with. He was not winning friends and influencing people. He was difficult. He was a male diva, and he was churlish, and he was evil and just difficult to deal with. And he was of the house of Caleb. And fourth verse, it says, David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. And David sent out 10 young men, and David said unto the young men, get you up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. And thus shall ye say to him that liveth in prosperity. He lives in prosperity. This is what you're going to say to him. Peace be both to thee and peace be to thine house. And I'm reading the King James Version here. And peace be unto all thou hast. So David's sending his men to go and say, peace unto you. And now I have heard that thou hast shearers. Their shearers were shearing the sheep. And now thy shepherds, which were with us, we hurt them not. Now, David, he was a king, but he also was a man of war. And he had 600 men with him that were right there by the shearers. And what did they do? They didn't harm them. They didn't hurt them. They didn't steal from them. They actually protected them. He says, and now I've heard that thou hast shearers. Now thy shepherds, which were with us, we hurt them not, neither was there aught missing unto them. We didn't take anything from them. All the while they were in Carmel. You're not here. I'm here in Carmel with your folks, and I'm doing good by them. Verse 8, ask thy young men, and they will shew thee. Therefore, let the young men find favor in thine eyes, for we come in a good day. Give, I pray thee, whatsoever cometh to thine hand unto thy servants and to thy son David. So he's saying, I'm your son. We need provisions. Give what you think is good. Give us whatever you think is good. And please give it to my servants who are with you. It says, and when David's young men came, they spake to Nabal according to all the words in the name of David and ceased. So they said what he said to say, and then they waited for the response. Verse 10, and Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? Well, right then and there, he knew who David was. He knew who his daddy was because he said, well, who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? Well, you know who I am. You even know who my family is. He said, there be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed for my shearers and give it unto men whom I know not whence they be? So David's young men turned their way and went again and came and told him all of those sayings. And David said unto his men, gird ye on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword. And David also girded on his sword. So they got their weapons. And there went up after David about 400 men, and 200 men abode by the stuff. So he left 200 men back to watch their provisions, watch their stuff. And he took 400 men with weapons, and he was on his way. Where was he on his way to? He was on his way to Maon, where Nabal was. It says, 14th verse, but one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he railed on them. But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything. As long as we were conversant with them, when we were in the fields, they were a wall unto us, both night and day. And while we were with them keeping the sheep, now, therefore, know and consider what thou wilt do, for evil is determined against our master. That their master, of course, was her husband. Evil is determined against our master and against all his household, for he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him. So that meant he was such a wicked man. Belial, of course, being a false god. He's such a son of Belial or Belial, however you want to pronounce that. And it says that a man cannot speak to him. So Abigail is like, okay, 400 men are coming here to kill us. My husband has been ridiculous to them. What am I going to do? 18th verse, then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine and 5 sheep ready dressed and 5 measures of parched corn and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs and laid them on asses. Now remember, they were rich. Nabal was rich. She was able to gather this food together and get it together quickly. And 19th verse, and she said unto her servants, go on before me. Go before me. Behold, I come after you. But she told not her husband Nabal. Now, she did all this and she didn't tell her husband. Now, listen, we're going to see how wise she was. Sometimes you have to go ahead and do something. You're led of the Lord to do it. And sometimes you can't tell everybody what you're about to do. You can't tell everybody everything. Okay, something we're learning from her. You got to go and do what God would have you to do. And sometimes you got to do it quickly. And then you can talk to them later. It says, and it was so, verse 20, as she rode on the ass, that she came down by the covert of the hill, and behold, David and his men came down against her, and she met them. So she met up with them. Now David had said, surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow hath in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him, and he hath requited me evil for good. So and more also do God unto the enemies of David, if I leave all that pertain to him by the morning light, any that pisseth against the wall. So what he's saying is, by the morning light, not a man, not any that pisseth against the wall, not a man will be living. And and if I don't kill them all, let God do unto the enemies of David more than that if I leave any alive. So it says, and when Abigail saw David, she hasted. So here's what she did. She hasted, she lighted off the ass and fell before David on her face and bowed herself to the ground. She humbled herself. Her husband was stiff-necked. Her husband refused to humble himself, but she humbled herself. And verse 24, and fell at his feet and said, upon me, my Lord, upon me let this iniquity be, and let thine handmaid, I pray thee, speak in thine audience and hear the words of thine handmaid. Let not, my Lord, I pray thee, regard this man of Belial. So she just called her husband also a man of Belial, a wicked man. It says, even Nabal. Nabal's name, by the way, means folly. That's what his name means. It means fool, actually. It means fool. She said, even Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, thine handmaid, saw not the young men of my Lord, whom thou didst send. Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, seeing the Lord hath withholden thee from coming to shed blood, and from avenging thyself with thine own hand, let now thine enemies and they that seek evil to my Lord be as Nabal. And now this blessing which thine handmaid have brought, all of these provisions she brought unto my Lord, let it even be given unto the young men that follow my Lord. I pray thee, forgive the trespass of thine handmaid. Now she said, forgive my trespass. Now she didn't even see the men, but you know what? She was so brave. She said, it's my fault. It's my fault. No, knowing it's not her fault, it's her crazy husband's fault. But she said, it's my fault. Forgive me. I didn't even see them. Here I am. I have provisions for you. Eat, drink, and forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. She said, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house, because my Lord fighteth the battles of the Lord, and evil hath not been found in thee all thy days. So one of the things you should know is that Abigail was an Israelitess. She was of the house of Israel. She knew who David was, and she knew that God was with him. So she was a woman of knowledge. She was well-versed in the scriptures, well-versed. She had a relationship with God, and she knew that David was the anointed king and who God was with, right? And it says, verse 29, yet a man is risen to pursue thee and to seek thy soul, but the soul of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life with the Lord thy God, and the souls of thine enemies, them shall he sling out as out of the middle of a sling. So she's really prophesying here. She knows Saul was seeking David's soul, right? He was seeking his life, but she said, the soul of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life with the Lord thy God, and the souls of thine enemies, them shall he sling out as out of the middle of a sling. And it shall come to pass when the Lord shall have done to my Lord according to all the good which he hath spoken concerning thee, and shall have appointed thee ruler over Israel, that this shall be no grief to thee, nor offense of heart to my Lord, either that thou hast shed blood causeless, or that my Lord hath avenged himself. But when the Lord shall have dealt well with my Lord, then remember thine handmaid. So she's letting, when you become king, this little thing that's happening here between you and my husband, this is not going to be a big deal at all. It'll be great that you didn't do anything to harm him. But when you come into your kingdom, don't forget about me. It says, and we have about 4 minutes left. So I'm going to cut to the chase here. Basically, David, it says in verse 35 here on your handout. So David received of her hand that which she had brought him, and said unto her, go up in peace to thine house. See, I have hearkened to thy voice and have accepted thy person. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunken. Wherefore she told him nothing less or more until the morning light. But it came to pass in the morning, when the wine was gone out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became as stone. And it came to pass about 10 days after, that the Lord smote Nabal, and he died. And then verse 39, when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord that hath pleaded the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and have kept his servant from evil. For the Lord hath returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head." And David sent and communed with Abigail to take her to him to wife. And when the servants of David were come to Abigail to Carmel, they spake unto her, saying, "David sent us unto thee to take thee to him to wife." Now let's see what she did when she heard that. It says, "And she arose and bowed herself on her face to the earth." Now this is David's servants. She bowed herself on her face to the earth and said, "Behold, let thine handmaid be a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my Lord." She was very different from her husband. And Abigail hasted and arose and rode upon an ass with 5 damsels of hers that went after her. And she went after the messengers of David and became his wife. So she had a transformation, didn't she? She went from the wife of a fool. That's what his name meant, right? A churlish man to the wife of a king. What was the key to her positive change? Well, the wisdom. She had the wisdom to act with discretion. And she had the humility to treat others with respect. So this is our delightful infusion today. Sometimes we have to have the wisdom to act with discretion and the humility to treat others with respect. In your own time, I'd like you to take a look at your handout and spend some time in reflection. Write about your tests, trials you've gone through, your changes and transitions that you've gone through. You know, she was in a period of transition when her husband died. Losing a loved one is one way to get right into a period of transition, but God brought her to a positive and fulfilling transformation. And so I'd like you to take time when you have time to think about these discussion questions, these reflection questions, and ask yourself, what one thing can you do this week that's going to move you in the direction of a goal or a dream or a transformation that you want to have? What is one thing that you can do this week to move yourself forward? And then I want you to schedule it. One thing I talk to my coaching clients about is it's a dream until you write it down, then it's a roadmap. But when you schedule it, then it becomes an action plan. I want you to schedule when you're going to do your one thing. And I also want you to take the time to look in your handout and read all about the Abigail coaching program, because I've named this program after Abigail for a reason, and it is a transformation coaching. And so I'd like you to take the time to read all about that. And if you have any questions about that, go ahead and send me an email or send me a private message. I would love to talk to you about it. I am going to keep my word today. It is 12:30. We're going to be back again tomorrow at noon sharp. We won't have as many preliminaries because we've got all that out of the way, and we're going to get into the next woman. The next woman we're going to talk about is Naomi. So I am looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 12 o'clock sharp. All right, I'll see you then. And until then, have a delightful day.